Welcome, everyone, to the Inside Lane here on Sports360AZ.com, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of motorsports here in the state of Arizona. I'm your host, Devon Henry, and in case you didn't know, there's a big one coming up next weekend. It is my second favorite event of the year, only behind the same one that happens in November. It is the Ticket Guardian 500 NASCAR weekend for the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series coming up here next week, March 8th through the 10th at one of the most interactive racetracks in the world. And to get us all pumped up and ready for this, join us on the Inside Lane to get ready for the Ticket Guardian 500 weekend. She is the only woman at the helm of a NASCAR track, a member of the International Speedway Corporation for nearly 20 years, and now the president of ISM Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. It's Julie Giese. Julie, thank you so much for joining me. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show this week.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. We're excited to get NASCAR back here next week.
Oh, yeah. It's always a lot of fun. It's early in the season. There's the new tapered spacers that's going on, and we're really having our first real week of seeing what that's going to be like at Las Vegas. And then, boom, we're right here back in Zoomtown, USA. Now, I want to know a little bit more about you. Before becoming the president, you were the International Speedway Corporation Managing Director of Business Operations for ISC Design and Development. That's quite the title. But you're originally from Wisconsin, not really known for their racing, but I want to know, what are your racing roots to eventually bring you to NASCAR and being the president of now the most interactive racetrack in the world?
Well, I'd say NASCAR doesn't have a Cup Series race in Wisconsin, but there are a lot of short tracks in Wisconsin. And so I grew up as a race fan. My family were race fans. I went to a few races at Road America and the Milwaukee Mile. So I grew up in it. I enjoy it, and I think we've got some, you think about Matt Kenseth, and back when I was growing up, it was Dave Marcus and Dick Trickle, Alan Kowicki. So, I grew up loving racing. It was a dream job when I was hired at Watkins Glen International way back when, and was able to just work my way through and up in the company, moving on to Daytona and overseeing our marketing there, and ultimately the Daytona Rising redevelopment project, which really put me in position for the role you talked about with design and development. And my role there really was working on ISM Raceway and the $178 million renovation. So it set me up perfectly for the role that I have now here at ISM Raceway. And I know the property. I probably was the only one that maybe didn't get lost in November, because I knew that place like the back of my hand.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned all the great racers from Wisconsin. Now also Derek Kraus, who had his first Gander Outdoor Truck Series race last November here at ISM Raceway. Fun to have both of you guys making debuts. But as you mentioned, go ahead.
I was going to say, and with Derek, his family lives about 10 miles from my family. So I've known Derek a long time, known his family. That was very cool to have his first Truck Series race at the track I was now leading. So that was a special moment for all of us cheeseheads.
Now, I don't think he'll be here for the Xfinity Series race, but hopefully we'll have him back in November for either the trucks or we'll talk about the K&N Pro Series coming back to Phoenix as well. But I also want to know, you talked about the dream job when you got hired at Watkins Glen. I want to know a little bit about whether you've been told or why you think $178 million gets poured into this racetrack. It's now the most interactive in the world. Why Julie Giese to take over for the very first race?
It's a great question. I think I work hard, and I'd probably challenge anybody to putting in the long hours and things like that. And for me, like I said, it was a really easy setup because I knew the property. I knew what we were doing with the modernization project. And I'd spent the last 2 years working with the team here at ISM Raceway too, so I had a good rapport with them. Honestly, getting the job a couple of weeks before the November race was overwhelming, but I felt like it really was a fairly easy transition because I did know the property, I knew the people, and I've been in the industry for such a long time that I knew the competitors and the teams and was able to really lean on them and rely on them to help get me through. So I'm excited for our second race and to get things rolling again and get the fans that haven't seen the new property out there to see just what we've done.
You talked about being a part of the Daytona Rising project, and while you weren't track president while everything was going on at ISM Raceway, as you mentioned, you had quite a large hand in doing that. I know this might be something like picking a favorite child, but can you kind of rival us between that Daytona modernization and now here at ISM Raceway, and your favorite experience from doing both of those projects?
You know, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, Daytona was much bigger from a scale perspective, and just the facility there is so much larger than what we have here at ISM Raceway. But the great part about ISM Raceway's project is we were able to learn a lot of things from Daytona Rising. What worked? What did the fans really like? What worked for the industry and the suites and things like that? And then we could apply that to what we did here at ISM Raceway. So I think, you know, we going second afforded us a lot of opportunities to kind of tweak and do some things that, you know, looking back at Daytona, we're like, okay, here's some opportunities, or here's things that the fans really love. We need to make sure we continue to include that as we move forward. I think the differentiating point between the two projects is the infield experience here at ISM Raceway. We have completely renovated that infield. We took down everything except, I think it was one building in the infield, and started over, and we now have a completely immersive experience for race fans. It puts you in the heart of all things racing. You can walk into the NASCAR garages. You can watch the drivers meeting. There's driver appearances throughout. We've got a Miller Lite beer garden, Modern Margarita tequila bar, Porta-Cool chill zone, really great branded areas. And then my favorite part about the entire project is Gatorade Victory Lane here at ISM Raceway. Fans can actually come back into the infield, or maybe they didn't go up to their seats and they just spent the race in the infield, and you can actually participate in Gatorade Victory Lane. The car is actually elevated and the team is elevated, so the fans are standing right next to the stage, and you get to be a part of it. And that was a really cool experience. We weren't sure, really, you know, you build all this stuff and you really hope it works. That one, I think we knocked it out of the park. It surpassed any of our expectations. So definitely that's my favorite part here at ISM Raceway. Daytona was a big project, and it was a long undertaking. We had to run races while we were half under construction, and just being able to get through it and open this beautiful property and state of the art. I think for me, it's hard to pick one thing because we did so much, and that facility, I mean, it's completely brand new, just like what we have here now in Phoenix.
Yeah, Kyle Busch and his wife Samantha, for that matter, I think were huge fans of Victory Lane on Sunday, not just because of the win, but the fans were right there. Kyle spraying some Monster Champagne all over them. Samantha's doing autographs with some of the kids and handing out hats. So that was a really fun moment, and I want to look back again at that Can-Am 500 weekend. Race number one, was there a moment that stuck out for you that you saw in person and you went, we're really doing something unique here?
You know, I that happened to me so many times during the weekend, just because you work so hard on this project and you get so far into the weeds sometimes that you know, when you finally open it and you see the faces of the fans as they walk through the gates, as they walk into their seats, as they walk into the infield, and the amazement and the awe and the excitement that they have, that, to me, that's the payoff. And I remember it very specifically at Daytona. We opened our gates for the first time and did a preview for our fans, and they walked up into the new venue, like, and their jaws hit the ground. It was spectacular, and we had the exact same experience here at ISM Raceway with our fans, just to see how excited they were and how much they were enjoying it. I think the other thing that we can pat ourselves on the back for and was moving that start-finish line and creating these crazy restarts. And I'm really excited next weekend with the new rules package to see what happens during those restarts, because I think they're going to get even crazier.
Absolutely. That's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I also got to talk to a racer a couple weeks ago, Michael McDowell, Glendale, Arizona native, and he talked about how proud he was that ISM Raceway is his home track. Now, obviously, it means a lot for all these fans to come out here and to see their faces and watch their jaws drop, like you mentioned. But what does it mean to you, not just impressing the fans, but also the drivers in the cars, especially the three here from Arizona, being Alex Bowman, J.J. Yaley, and Michael McDowell?
Absolutely. First of all, it was so fun to watch Michael in the Daytona 500.
Oh, yes. That was a lot of fun.
He had a lot of fans that day from ISM Raceway team rooting him on, so that was a lot of fun to see how well he did. You know, for us, it is about the fan experience, but we want to make sure that the competitors in the industry, when they show up here, they enjoy it just as much, and that's really important to me. We've actually spent some time in Charlotte last month visiting with all the teams, making sure that we've got everything that they need, that everything went as well as we thought it did. So for me, that positive feedback is just as important as the fans, because when the competitors show up here and they enjoy it, that just, they want to interact with the fans. They want to make the experience even better. And so for us, we want to be everybody's favorite track on the circuit.
There you go. I like that. I do want to step away from the racetrack real quick, or the racing at the very least. I love that you've mentioned that you want to create new content, new opportunities for the venue, attracting attention, even outside of racing. And I absolutely love Zoomtown Lights. I thought that was a phenomenal experience, a phenomenal idea. And as I mentioned earlier, the K&N Pro Series West, their championship race, is coming back to ISM Raceway, a race that I always looked forward to as a kid. And I'll never forget going, hey, look, there's a Blaney in that race, some kid named Ryan Blaney. And now here he is. He won last year, and he'll be coming back again in the Cup Series. But can you give us a little bit of what's in store for ISM Raceway in the future, even beyond the world of racing?
Absolutely. That's a huge initiative in my mind, now that we have a property that has a ton of flexibility and a ton of event space that we didn't have before. So to me, the sky's the limit. Bring me an idea and we'll figure out if we can do it. We talk about festivals or food trucks or car shows, but there's other things we can do. You talk about Zoomtown Lights. I think that's was a great example of something unique for people to do. It exposes them to the racetrack, and the whole idea is let's get people out to the track that maybe aren't an avid race fan, but they're curious. They come out to the track, they see this amazing property that we have here, and then they decide, hey, let's give it a shot for a race coming up, and that's really our goal. So, last night we actually had a really cool event out here, a track rental event in our garages, like a party, and it turned out so good. We have so many different buildings now that we can program. I'm excited about the potential of the things we can do with this facility now.
So before I let you go, I want to do a segment I like to call Quick Time. I do this with all the drivers, just some rapid fire questions. I'm looking for some rapid fire answers in return. You ready to set Quick Time, Julie?
Absolutely.
All righty. Who is the youngest race winner at ISM Raceway? Hint, he's also the youngest pole winner.
Oh, I don't know my ISM Raceway history yet.
Well, here's a little bit of
isn't
something
fair.
for you. It's your Can-Am 500 champion, Kyle Busch, back in 2005, won the fall race. He's the youngest. And then also, the very next race in spring of 2006, 13 years ago now, he became the youngest pole sitter as well. How about this one? From your experience, what's been the toughest part, kind of a roadblock to overcome here back in race number 1?
Just getting people out to see what we've done, making sure everybody knows what we've done.
Anything special for all the campers on Moving Day on Monday as the fans start to camp out for the race?
They might see me out there with some donuts and with the welcoming committee.
Fantastic. And can I squeeze a prediction out of you for next weekend?
No. I am going to predict a crazy good race with amazing restarts and a lot of excitement. That's my hope. We had that in the fall. It was so much fun. The last probably 50 laps of the race, it was so hectic on the racetrack. The fans, every time I looked up, they were all standing. Nobody was sitting down for those last 50 laps because you just didn't know what was going to happen. It was so much fun, and I think we're going to see more of that next weekend.
I think I'd like to predict that, too. I think you're going to be right on that one. One of my favorite moments from the fall race was actually the Camping World Truck Series race. Pre-race, when I looked up at the grandstands for a Truck Series race, something that I went to for the past many years, that crowd was very, very large for the, AA of NASCAR. That was a phenomenal crowd out at ISM Raceway this fall. And of course, I'm sure we're going to sell out again here for the Sunday race. Julie, thank you so much for joining along here on the Inside Lane. Absolute pleasure to have you on, and I cannot wait for my second favorite event, sporting event of the year, the Ticket Guardian 500, only behind the Can-Am 500 weekend, but nonetheless, out to see all you guys out there. Julie, thanks again for your time.
No problem. Thanks so much. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, make sure you go to ismraceway.com and get those before next weekend.
And check out the infield passes as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Julie. Be sure to go on out. Get ready for the Ticket Guardian 500. That's it here for the Inside Lane here. That's Julie Giese, the president of ISM Raceway. Check out all editions of the Inside Lane on sports360az.com.